What's up, guys? Welcome to Week 11 Thursday Night Football DFS Showdown Preview. We're going to be talking our best values in GPP stacks between the matchup for the Cleveland Browns and Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's get right into it, starting with our punt plays for Thursday Night Football. So for me, it's going to be the tight end position. Demetrius Harris, 4,200, and Ricky Seals-Jones at 3,600. Both these tight ends are for the Browns. Currently, right now, as it stands, we have both of these guys. It looks like Ricky Seals-Jones is questionable still in this matchup, where you're still not sure if he's going to play in this game. If he does play, he becomes a pivot option at 3,600 as a punt play. But if he doesn't play, I like Demetrius Harris as a guy that has a very low salary at 4,200 that you can easily squeeze into a lineup. The matchup's actually pretty good with the Pittsburgh Steelers allowing the 9th most fantasy points to the tight end position, so I do like it as a punt play. But the best punt plays are probably coming from the kickers, Austin Seibert and Chris Boswell. Austin Seibert's 3,800 and Chris Boswell is $4,000. Looking at the matchup, this game is going to probably project to be pretty low scoring. The over-under in this game is right around 40 points. So I do like the kickers. If you look at the kicking statistics over the last couple of weeks, Cleveland over the past 3 weeks has averaged 2.7 field goals per game, field goal attempts per game, and Seibert has made 8 field goals over the past 3 weeks. So I'm not going to probably put him in my captain spot just because they are limited in the amount of points they can score, but I do think that Seibert is a guy you can put in a flex as probably your cheapest option, as someone you can actually feel somewhat comfortable about. Steelers kicker Chris Boswell also have been pretty good. He scored the 4th most fantasy points at the position over the past 3 weeks, and Cleveland at home this year has allowed 2.2 field goal attempts per game in the dog pound. So I do like that for the Cleveland Browns and for the Pittsburgh Steelers. From a points per game basis, the Steelers defense at 5,200 really cannot be beat in this matchup. I mean, it's honestly probably one of the few that you can actually have in your captain spot as a defense. I mean, they're averaging 13.2 fantasy points per game. That's almost as much as Mason Rudolph, the quarterback of the Steelers, is averaging, who's $8,400, who's averaging 13.6 points per game. So I know like a lot of people are going to try to stuff into both quarterbacks this week, but I think this is a week where you can actually fade both quarterbacks altogether. I'm not necessarily recommending that, but I think that you definitely can build some lineups with that for sure. And honestly, maybe I am recommending it. It's really not that bad of an idea. I will get into what quarterback I will play though. And the quarterback that I would play for this game would be Baker Mayfield. If I was going to play a specific quarterback in this matchup, it would be Baker Mayfield. The Browns are favored at home this week. Vegas was backing up the Browns last week, even though they were, up against a 6-2 Bills team and they were 2-6. So I'm going to be going back to the Browns, recommending Cleveland as my stack to utilize. So building around my core players with Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, and Odell Beckham Jr. On this slate in particular, I also, again, like I mentioned, the defenses. So I think that you can play the Chubb, you can play Browns defense, special teams. So for this build here, I'm going to throw Chubb into the captain spot, combined with Baker Mayfield, combined with some Odell Beckham Jr., and that leaves 6,900 left for us to play with. So I'm not sure how I'm going to use that. I actually might be using Kareem Hunt. As weird as that sounds, or even like a Deontay Johnson, but we'll get more into it. I kind of use the last amount of money here. So yeah, I do like the Browns defense also as part of a stack. If you play with Chubb, I think that that's an option that you can utilize as well. So now kind of going into some of the contrarian plays for this week. So again, I mentioned you don't have to play both quarterbacks. You can honestly fade both quarterbacks in this matchup because both quarterbacks have not scored a lot of points this year. Both are averaging right either under 15 points per game or right around 15 points per game. So, over the past 3 weeks, that's really what it's been like. So you don't feel like you need I need to jam in a quarterback. I would not, honestly. You do not need to do it. But if I would play with quarterback, I would play Baker Mayfield, and I would stack him with Browns offensive pieces. But going contrarian, I think that attacking the cheaper running backs on each team could be really a wise decision. So obviously you have Nick Chubb here in the captain spot that we had set up for our build here, but I think that a guy like Kareem Hunt, who is someone that I'm actually going to throw into this build as well, $5,800. Arguably, both of Jalen Samuels and Kareem Hunt could easily outscore their running back counterparts, and that's kind of the contrarian part here because, again, I just built this pretty decent lineup that I actually really like a lot, but I've, left a lot of money on the table still. I haven't necessarily spent it all, And I think people are just going to be kind of like, I can afford James Conner and I can afford Nick Chubb, so I'm just going to play both of them just for the hell of it. But that's maybe not the most optimal, move here. We're looking at the slate as a whole, and it's like, remember, DraftKings is points per reception. And you have two running backs that are clearly the superior pass-catching running backs on their teams, at least in a usage standpoint. I'm not going to get into who's a better pass catcher, because I think that, I think Nick Chubb is probably the best overall running back in this group, but I think that Kareem Hunt is in the passing game. He had, 7 receptions last week, and he actually outscored Nick Chubb from a PPR standpoint, subtracting the 100 rushing yard bonus that Chubb had last week. So that's a look at, some of those under the radar running backs that maybe need to still be options. And then the last contrarian thing that we can mention is fading James Conner. 10,800. His price tag is, he's obviously the most expensive player on the board. People are probably going to play him a lot because, the matchup's pretty good on paper. The Browns are averaging 4.9 yards per carry this season. That's what they're giving up. But Cleveland defense plays better at home. That's one thing I want to stress. Cleveland's defense is better at home, and Steelers' defense has not really been tested on the road this year. They played 2 road games. The Patriots, they got killed, and they played the 49ers, who turned the ball over like 5 times. And then they play the Chargers, who they don't really play on the road. So it's kind of like it wasn't really a road game, and Duck Hodges started in that game. So we haven't seen Mason Rudolph on the road. So since week 2, basically, or week 3. So James Conner is someone that you can fade, I think. I think that fading him could be a nice contrarian play and leverage play. I mean, he's coming off an injury. We've seen this with David Johnson. It can go either way. We've seen it where guys come off injury and they blow up and no one has them. And we've seen guys like David Johnson come off injury, good spot, and then they just totally implode. I'm not willing to spend all that extra money on James Conner for the chance that he just totally implodes. If I'm going to spend up that much money, I want that guy to be a lock, a core in my build, and I think that Nick Chubb is the better option to use that salary for. Now, moving lastly to my last contrarian guy is Juju Smith-Schuster. So someone that has kind of been down overall in the consensus of kind of, this season. He's not getting targeted that often, but $8,600, I think that he is in line for a nice outing with cornerback matchup versus TJ Carey. Juju runs the majority of his routes from the slot, so I do think that he can make some noise in this game. TJ Carey has taken over as the primary slot defensive back in Cleveland after the release of Jermaine Whitehead. He has allowed 1.79 yards per snap, which is the fourth worst in the NFL. Carey is by far the worst cornerback on the Browns. 2 best performances from receivers versus the Browns this season were Cooper Kupp and Julian Edelman, who both scored 2 touchdowns and had double-digit targets. Again, there's definitely exposure in the slot in this game, so I think that a lot of people are going to be chasing a James Washington type of, Mason Rudolph stack, and I think that in this matchup, I don't know if that's going to be the case necessarily. Again, I'm not very high on Mason Rudolph, so it's really hard for me to be high on all of his particular receivers. I think Washington's going to generate a lot of ownership, and I'm not so sure that this is the week that he's really set up the best for success with outside cornerbacks like Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward, whereas I think that there may be more opportunity in the middle of the field with Juju Smith-Schuster, and then even a cheaper guy in Deontay Johnson, who's coming in at $6,400. So there you go, guys. That's my wrap-up of Thursday Night Football. Again, we have a little bit of a build here, a sample one that I built out, so feel free to use it, play it in the contest, whatever, but, take note of the things I mentioned while you build your lineups for tonight's game. Good luck, and make sure you go check out windailysports.com for more content about Thursday Night Football and about everything about the weekend slate. And make sure you check out Monkey Knife Fight. Also, the promo code is in the description of the article written up on the website. So make sure, and then also in the video description. So make sure you go check out windailysports.com and check out monkeyknifefight.com to get some prop betting in.